Oh, switching gear. The reason why I'm laughing is because of the thumbnail, bro. And I know it's gonna piss a lot of people off, but bro, it I was having fun with that fucking AI thumbnail prompt, right? With this topic right here. Um, Switching gears from the whole FBA versus Caribbean black type of bullshit. Um, with that, I had to get my thoughts on it and go do some research and some homeworks. And I'm gonna do some more stuff on those topics, but that's not my only that's not my only thing, right? I don't just talk about that. I talk about other stuff, my bad. I talk about other stuff, right? So these is one of these things. And so basically what I do, remember to like, share, subscribe to the video, right? Basically what I do is I hear things going on YouTube or social media, and because I have my own life experiences, I say, "Oh shit, I hear this thing. Let me go do some research," and I have my own thoughts about the topic. So based upon that, I make presentations about it, right? Like when I used to be in school, in high school, and I used to be in elementary school, right, or junior high school, when we had to do book reports, right? So I'm basically doing that with the presentations. And I had to go take life experience plus research plus how I observe the environment and go do the book report while I'm doing the same thing with the presentations and stuff, right? This topic right here. Why black men and white women face the most hate in interracial dating. This is a topic that's been happening. I want to say since maybe the 80s and the 90s or before that. But as of recently now, that a lot of the racial threat that black men used to face back in the day is not so heavy anymore. It's every heavy anymore. And same thing that white women face, right? Because white women, they were shamed from dating black men. If you go back to the 80s, I can speak for the 90s and the 2000s because I'm 33 years old. So I'm an early 90s baby. I remember a lot of Italian, Irish, the who's would tell their women not to date black men like that. I remember that. So Becky's were also shamed out of dating black men too. I know that during slavery, one of the Christian black codes is that if they caught a Becky messing with a black man, she'd get killed or hung, especially if she got pregnant carrying his baby, right? So, and guess who inspired it? Tariq Nasheed. Tariq Nasheed said that the most two oppressed people in America is the black man and the white woman. And when he said, I said, I might not like Tariq Nasheed and his pork belly bitch ass. But I do agree with that point. But here's why I agree with that point. Here's my reasoning for that. Right? I'm gonna bang on you all foundational broke back Americans. Or you foundational black broke back Americans. The fact that Tariq Nasheed has a TS person, a transformer person, a transhuman person, talking about she's the first lady of FBA, and he allows that shit to happen. Foundational broke back black Americans. Anyway, let's get into the topic. Black men date white women versus white men date black women. And why those reactions differ depending on social context, media framing, and community psychology. The core premise: there's a cultural double standard in how interracial relationships are perceived, depending on the gender and race. When a black man dates a white woman, it's often criticized as a form of betrayal, self-hate, rejection of black women. When a white man dates a black woman, it's often celebrated as progress, empowerment, or the symbol of social elevation. This isn't random. It's rooted in centuries of social conditioning, power dynamics, and racial marketing. Now, let me find something. There's something else I got to go find in my toolbox. I want to let y'all know I do a lot of studying and I do a lot of presentations because I study society. And when I have a chance to sit down with myself, I think about these things. And I'll go, are people talking about this? Have people broken it down the way I've broken it down? And I decided, you know what? Let me break this down, right? Give me a moment. I got to go into my medicine box, my tool kit, and go find what I need to go find. All right, it's there. Okay, right? So let's continue. Colonial era power dynamics. Black men were once criminalized for desiring or being with white women. Lynchings protecting white womanhood myth. White men freely exploited and hypersexualized black women during slavery, with no social penalty. 20th century shift. As black men gained social economic mobility, interracial dating symbolized freedom, but was reframed as abandonment by black race. White men dating black women post civil rights era was marketed as breaking racial barriers and diversity in love. Media framing. Black male athletes or entertainers or white partners equal sellout narrative. White male celebrities or black women equal progress, inclusive, or woke narrative. Modern social media dynamics. When a black man date a white woman, criticism angle, you hate your mother. You couldn't handle a strong black woman. You want proximity to whiteness. When in actuality, it's black women that want proximity to whiteness. You want me to show you how? Show you how. Oh, when y'all skimming through this, right? I'll let you know. I've broken down black culture, like Angry Man say, to a fraction or to the molecule. I say down to the atom. I'm talking about Ant-Man level. I'm talking about the another universal level. I'm talking about I broke this motherfucker down. Undebatable. Look at all the analogies I've made and shit. I could write some books. Cultural conditioning. I think I'm no. I think I've passed it probably. I think I passed it. Oh no. Give me a moment. Give me a second, people. I'm gonna find it. And when I find it and I read it back to you, you're gonna be like, "Oh shit!" You're already going, "Oh shit!" What this nigga got in here? But I might not be able to find it. It's probably somewhere else. My fault. Oh, justification for interracial dating when those dating white men see black men. Oh, so this is something else. This might be it. This might be it. This might be it. All right, so let's go here. Uh, so let's go into this, right? The psychological breakdown. While black women call black men lames but praise white lames. The setup, programming in black culture. Black men with structure, resources, and discipline equal labeled as squares, lames, or suckers inside black culture. Pimps, players, thugs, gangbangers equal praise as alpha because of mouthpiece, bravado, and rebellion against order. This creates an inverted hierarchy, where the men who should objectively be the most desirable, providers, builders, patriarchs, are downplayed. The double standard across racial lines. A black man who is structured, traditional, or disciplined equal dismissed, boring, or lame, not exciting. A white man with those exact same traits equals praised as gentleman, dependable, a real man. The same behavioral traits are rebounded as attractive when attractive to whiteness. Strategic function of the double standard. Phase one, sacrificial cycle. Black women select dogs, players, men who are statistically more likely to be jailed, killed, or destabilized, reducing the pool of black male leadership. Phase two, public narrative control. After destructive choices, the narrative becomes the only black men available were dogs, players, or lames. This erases the presence of traditional black men they actively rejected. Phase three, justification for interracial dating. Now in dating white men, the excuse becomes, see black men ain't stepping up, so we had to look elsewhere. Meanwhile, the white man being chosen is no different from the black man they call lame, except he benefits from the cultural perception that his lameness equals stability and respectability. The underlying psychology, the destruction loop. Choosing destructive men ensures black men self-destruct early, then in the herd of masculine leadership. Excuse creation. Fair relationships with thugs, players, pre-manufactured justification across the color line. Value transfer. The same square qualifiers denied to black men are only celebrated when they come in white package, feeding into the narrative of white men's ice is colder. Shout out to the angry man. Psychological warfare on black men. The message is if you want us, you must be either dangerous thug who burns out or a white man with stability who benefits from cultural double standards, right? The result, mindfuck for black men. You're told to abandon patriarchal discipline and adopt player thug traits to be seen as attractive, but that destroys you in the long run. If you remain a provider and structured, you're seen as lame if you're black, but praised if you're white. Either way, black women create a dynamic where black men lose. Play the thug, you self-destruct. You stay traditional, you're rejected until she needs saving later. Be stable and square, you're invisible unless you're white. Right? So that's the psychological manipulation loop, right? It's not just random dysfunction, it's cultural conditioning mechanism. that both undermines black male leadership and provides black women with a built-in excuse for abandoning their own men. All right. All right. So I don't think I found it properly yet. I don't think I found it. Those are not the ones I was talking about. But I did put a lot of good stuff in here. And mind you, I've made presentations after this expounding on what was in this already. So I could always take what I put out deeper to the next level. I'm trying to find it. Sorry for a bit of pause because there's a lot of stuff I put in here, and I'm trying to look for. Oh shit! I don't think this is the right one. This is probably not the right one. Hold on. My fault, people. Stay with me because I'm going to continue on track. I just got to find this. It's a must that I find this. And it's probably in the same shit too. Manhood, value man, blah, blah, blah. Folder. Hood. It could be in this one. Control F. Control F. White. Man. Could be done. Ah, this is where it is. This is where it is. This is where I put it. This is where I put it. And it could be in this, it could be in that one too. Like, I have a lot of good stuff, which is why I say my intelligence or the things that I do go beyond just, critiquing Tariq Nasheed all day. All right, so it's in this one. It's in this one. It's in this one. Let me see if I can do a control F here. Right. Nah, I can't do it for this one. All right, so we're just gonna have to go skim through it a bit. So let me see what page this was on. This was on. Hold on. Control F. Right, man. Okay, so I'm gonna skim through this. As you can see, I put a lot of good stuff on this. This is all from research and me putting presentations together. Okay, why? You know what? Could be part of it. When a black man marries a white woman, it creates outrage because it strengthens his patriarchal line across racial boundaries. His kids inherit his name, his bloodline, and his authority. This threatens both white male supremacy, loss of white women, and black female supremacy, lost control over black man's legacy. Woo! I put some good shit in here. Remember, I have ADHD. So in the moment, my thoughts are running wild when I'm typing shit down. And I'll leave it there and I might not remember it. So now that's why oftentimes, now I'll remember it later on. It'll pluck in my brain. Oh shit. So then I have to now go into my archives and then look into what I wrote for that situation, right? What I used to do that a lot back in school. When a white man marries a black woman, it's celebrated more because by default, the white male's patriarchal system absorbed her lineage. The resources, the name, and authority flow into his line, not hers. This actually mimics how conquerors once married into matrilineal societies, absorbing and redirecting them. This is exactly why the reactions are asymmetric. It's not about love or skin tone, it's about who controls the lineage. My reasoning in one sentence. Matrilineal matrifocal setups makes men disposable, providers. It makes women the entry point for outside men to redirect resources and lineage, which I think is exactly what's happening in black culture, right? Because white men are the patriarchal structure. Black women or black culture is either matrilineal or matrifocal. Patriarchal systems close this weakness by locking authority, bloodline, and resources into the father's direct lineage, which is why they proved more resilient. Modern black culture reflects the shadow of the matrilineal system, and it does create weakness that others exploit. White men, especially during colonial enslavement eras, acquired black women through forced conquest and coercion. This was not natural attraction, but domination. Slavery, rape, and programming, Stockholm syndrome, breaking family bonds, degrading black men in front of women. White male lineage continued through forced back patriarchy, not through charm or organic choice. So the game they played historically was objective power game: guns, laws, property rights, enslavement, and structural control. I want to actually skip past this. Something different. Something different. Ah, why was that approach? So no, this is something different. This is something different. Watch this. Shielding white slave fathers, right? Shielding white fathers. White men can impregnate enslaved women, but never worry about giving their children freedom, land, or inheritance, right? Destroying black patriarchy. It cut the black father out completely. His blood, his status, his masculinity meant nothing under the law. Right? In traditional, oh, so there's something different. My fault. Okay, slavery psychological blueprint. In slavery, the black man was legally powerless. He couldn't protect his woman, couldn't pass on inheritance, couldn't even claim his own children. White men, on the other hand, were the ones with power, land, and law. So when a black woman bore a mixed kid child by a white man, that child was legally, socially closer to freedom than a child fathered by a black man. That planted dissociation. Black men equal bondage, white men equal pathway to privilege. So it goes back, right? After slavery, this didn't just vanish. Jim Crow, colorism, and media reinforced it. Lighter skin, closer to whiteness, more opportunities. Darker skin, closer to blackness, more struggle, less privilege. Many black women, not all, but a cultural strain, internalize the idea that a mixed child could escape some of the hardship that fully black child couldn't. When some black women say being with a black man keeps them hostage to black culture, it's not about biology. It's about association with struggle. Being with a black man tied to the same systematic oppression, poverty, police, profiling, cultural stigma. Being with a white man, especially historically, feels like a ticket out, even only if symbolic. So yes, if she has a black child, she might unconsciously project that bondage, frustration onto him, her. If she has a mixed child by a white man, she might feel it's a status upgrade, even if it's just a psychological illusion. Right? So that goes back to this. That proximity thing, right? Sorry it took me all that time to go to that, to tie it to this, right? When black men date white women, right? But when white men date black women, she's finally being appreciated. Black women are winning. Love has no color, right? So that proximity thing they project on black men is actually what black women do when they date white men, which is what I showed you earlier, right? It validates the notion that black women gain value through white male acceptance, a colonial psychological residue repackaged as progress. All this repackaging shit, there's got to be some kind of mental crackness with all this repackaging and reframing of shit. It got to be. Black women historically own emotional and cultural access to black men. So interracial pairing is seen as loss of control, loss of control, loss of control. As you see me skimming through my other presentations, you saw matrilineal, right? Because in matrilineal societies, the women had control over the resources that the men brought, right? Black men really saw black women as possessions, so the reverse pairing doesn't trigger the same backlashes. Ego and image economics. For black men, you left your own narrative. For black men, you left your own. Narrative damages their social image. For black women, being chosen by a white man is seen as a status elevation in the Eurocentric hierarchy. Projection mechanism. Many critiques are projection-based. It's not about who someone dates, but what it represents symbolically. Independence, rejection, and validation. Black men internalize shame. They're made to feel like traitors for exploring beyond racial expectations. Black women internalize validation through whiteness. Acceptance from white men gets equated with finally being seen. Community division. Instead of discussing values and compatibility, the debate fixates on optics and race loyalty. Right? So look at this. Instead of discussing values and compatibility, the debate fixates on optics and race loyalty. Nobody breaks down what's race loyalty. Are black women race loyal to black men? Are black women, when you say race loyalty, are black women cooking, cleaning, or following the instructions that black men tell them to do? I don't want to hear the shit that black men are not leading. Black men are the most involved fathers. Black men are stepping up in their money game. Black men are stepping up in all areas. I don't give a fuck what Charlie Kirk be saying, because Charlie Kirk be lying or was lying. That's like Steven Crowder is lying. Black men are stepping up their game in plenty of areas. So why can't black women be race loyal and follow the instructions of black men? Instead, you want to talk about race loyalty. Like translation, black men must be race loyal to black women's bullshit or disobedience. You should keep picking black woman even though she don't follow his lead. This double standard isn't just about who's dating who. It's about who's allowed access, who's allowed to cross social boundaries without punishment. Black men crossing over, betrayal narrative. Black women crossing over, liberation narrative. Both serve to maintain a subconscious hierarchy where white approval still defines perceived value, and black independence, especially male, is treated as a threat. Core premise: the beauty body double standard. A lot of you black men, you do this to each other. I'm gonna break down what y'all do. When white men date black women, their partner's natural thickness is seen as aesthetic appreciation, embracing real curves and black beauty. When black men date white women with the same body type, slim, thick, or medium thick, it's framed as lowering standards, fetishizing, or dating overweight women. Even though white men, when they date black women, they're dating black women with the same overweight shape as black men used to date. Black men are dating when he's dating white women. But you black men who want to be part of the white manosphere club, you say the same dumbass shit that black men date oversized white women. But when they date black women, they date the same natural thickness, thick, overweight black women, slim to medium thick or slim thick, but it's classified as, what is it, black wife effect, or he dating a sister. I fucking hate a lot of y'all, the white manosphere. I really do. Shout out to Angry Man for making the black manosphere because it separated the different arguments. But I fucking hate a lot of white dudes on the internet. I hate a lot of y'all because y'all pathologicalize black men when we do the same shit you're doing. The same body type that's praised on black women is pathologicalized on white women when a black man is the chooser. The root historical and cultural context. Cultural era conditioning. White womanhood was historically associated with purity, delicacy, and fragility. Black womanhood was associated with fertility, physicality, and sexuality. This led to subconscious ownership of thick, voluptuous bodies as a black trait, and slimness as a white ideal. Media evolution. Pre-2000s, white women dominated beauty standard, thin, petite. Post-Instagram era, slim, thick became mainstream through black female aesthetics, hips, thighs, curves. But often white women now get credit for popularizing it. So I'll give black women that credit, right? I'll give black women the credit of you had the original shape, but now when white women are taking that shape, they're getting the credit for it. But the thing is, black men were already praising you for that shape you had, but you didn't care about our value. Everybody shamed us for saying we like fat women. The irony, black men help shift the cultural taste towards curvier women, but are now ashamed when they choose the same curvy white women. But black women, that's your fault. Because now, I love black women that are curvy. But if you're being disrespectful to me, you don't appreciate me. You're constantly saying niggas ain't shit, niggas ain't that, niggas is broke, niggas is dusty. You don't like how I approach you, blah, 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 blah. I'm just going to find a white woman with the same curvier shape. A white woman with the same curvier shape that like me, that follow me, and submissive to me, and obedient to me. Body ownership. Black culture pioneered the glorification of curves long before mainstream America did. When a white woman embodies that ideal, it feels like cultural theft. So the reaction isn't about her body, it's about who's being admired for it. Reverse anxiety. For decades, black men were made to feel that only white beauty was valid. Now that beauty trends are black-inspired curves, lips, skin tone, the fear is that black men might validate white women within a black aesthetic, seen as another layer of loss. But it's not, because black men always value black women for their curves and shapes. Every rap video that now black women are using against black men, they say that, oh, how we perverted the culture. Black men have always praised black women as God with her natural curves and shape. We've always done that. Always done that. But you didn't value art validate. Venus and Serena Williams. We elevated Venus and Serena Williams for her curves and her shape. But look who she married to. Control narrative. The outrage isn't just about attraction, it's about who gets to be celebrated under the label of thick. When black woman is thick, she's seen as empowered. When white woman is thick and chosen by a black man, she's seen as a threat. She wouldn't be a threat to you black women if you were appreciative of your black man. You didn't chase your black man over it. The fat white woman propaganda trick. I touched this perfectly. The cultural war online often uses extremes that create false generalization. Here's how the pattern works. They find various examples of black men dating morbidly obese white women. A lot of you black men in the black manosphere, you do this too. They push that image as proof that black men only want fat white women. Meanwhile, thousands of black men dating fit or curvy white women are ignored because it doesn't serve the narrative. The same people who then praise a white man for dating a thick black woman, love has no color. It's a narrative manipulation using extremes to erase normality. The Instagram paradox. When a white woman adopts a black-influenced body aesthetic, black men praising them, he's obsessed with white validation. Black woman adopting similar styles, she's embraced her roots. White men dating black women with the same shape, he's woke. He appreciates real women. You see that mind fuck that we keep doing to black men? Black men praising them. He's obsessed with white validation. Black woman adopting similar styles. She's embracing her roots. White men dating black women with the same shape. He's woke. He appreciates real women. The same aesthetic is culture. For one group, the fetish is for another, depending on who's holding the camera or who's holding the women. The underlying power equation at the root is about who gets to define beauty and who gets punished for validating it. When white men validate black female beauty, it elevates the woman socially. When black men validate white female beauty, it's black aesthetic. It triggers culture insecurity. That insecurity says, even the beauty standard we built can be used to praise someone else, what do we have left? And I can understand that argument objectively. I can understand that argument. What do you have left? But you see, you wouldn't have that problem if you were not disrespecting black men, if you were loving and appreciating black men, if you were cooking and cleaning and being submissive to black men, and not to the pookie player gangster niggas y'all love to date, like I explained earlier. The actual black men that you know are good dudes. You wouldn't have this problem. That's why the outrage feels so emotional. It's about weight or beauty. It's not about weight or beauty. It's about ownership of the aesthetic and loss of control over cultural capital. You don't think white women feel the same way when black women are going to the gym to lose weight to get their men? You don't think they feel the same way, that you're stealing their look when you put on a weave to look like them, when you're losing weight to look like them to get their men? You don't think they feel the same way? Summary insight. This dynamic isn't about race preference. It's about beauty monopoly and narrative control. Black women want ownership of the crazy aesthetic they built. White women will now benefit from the aesthetic global popularity. Black men are the swing voters of beauty culture. Their preference can validate or dethrone trends. Black men, this is your power right here. I notice this is the same thing with voting, and I notice this with the presidential elections, and I notice this is the same thing with these standards and trends. Black men are the swing voters of beauty culture. Their preferences can validate or dethrone trends. That's our power. So when a black man chooses a white woman who embodies black-coded body type, it shakes both racial and gender hierarchies, triggering both insecurity and outrage. Core paradox. The body is praised or shamed depending on who's holding it. What I'm describing could be called the cross-racial body double standard. The same body type, same weight, same curve, same proportion is celebrated when a black woman, but shamed when a white woman depending on who she's dating. Who's dating her, my bad. It's not just hypocrisy, it's a reflection of racial coding of body types. Meaning society associates certain physical traits with racial identity and then moralizes them. The body type distribution reality. Statistically and culturally, black women on average have a higher hip to waist ratio. low gluteal fat distribution, and curvier silhouettes, a trait admired within Black culture for generations. White women on average tend to be slimmer, more rectangular in body shape, culturally praised in Eurocentric spaces as a fit or modelisque archetype. In Black culture, slim thick is normal, not exotic. In white culture, the same shape is exceptional or exotic size and now being mimicked through fitness culture, surgery, or social media trends, right? Why white men get a pass? When white men date thicker Black women, they're portrayed as open minded, secure, and progressive. It becomes the Black wife effect, a meme term used on TikTok describing how white men glow up when dating a Black woman, dressing better, gaining rhythm, etc. Meanwhile, these same white men will call a white woman of identical size overweight, low value, or let herself go. Ain't that funny? Yet, when she's Black, those same proportions are not low value, are now natural, feminine, or voluptuous. It's aesthetic opportunism disguised as cultural appreciation. Why Black men get shamed? When Black men date white women with the same body type as women they grew up seeing, they're accused of dating fat white women. Social media use outline examples, BBW, morbidly obese women, to generalize that Black men only date fat white women. But if he dates a fit, thick white woman, she's now a 304 or BBL bimbo, or he just wants to be a white adjacent. It's a lose-lose framing. If she's thick, she's fat, he's settling. If she's fit, she's a 304, he's chasing whiteness. If she's average, she can't handle a strong sister. The real psychology behind it. This isn't just about dating preference, it's about control and cultural ownership. Black women's side, there's an unspoken belief that thickness is Black cultural trait. So when white women embody that and get chosen, it feels like theft of identity and attention. White men's side, they want access to Black female energy, but without rejecting white womanhood publicly. So they rebrand the same curves they shame in white women as celebration of diversity when dating Black women. Black men's side, they're punished for being consistent. When they show love for thick feminine shapes across racial lines, both groups accuse them of betrayal because their taste destabilizes racial gatekeeping around beauty. How social media amplifies it. On platforms like TikTok, Twitter X, and YouTube, clips of white women with thick Black women go viral under captions like, "He loves real women." Clips of Black men with thick white men gets duetted with mockery or disgust. Reactions using terms like "Black men love obesity." The algorithm favors outrage, not balance. So the extreme visuals dominate, reinforcing the stereotype. Meanwhile, in real life, the majority of interracial couples fall within normal weight and aesthetic range, but those aren't clickable. The Black female body is celebrated as cultural, the white female body is marketed as standard, and the Black male gaze is policed as disloyal, depending on which of those bodies it affirms. The Black male gaze, whoever Black men say is the standard of beauty, that should be the power. And we don't got to conquer, whoop nobody ass to do that. Depending on which of these bodies it affirms. That's why the same shape becomes beautiful, disgusting, or threatening depending on the racial chemistry of the relationship. Summary insight. This dynamic exposes how deeply Western society has racialized physical attraction itself. It's not that people are hypocritical by accident. It's that body types have been culturally assigned to moral categories. Curvy Black woman equal confidence, control, power. Curvy white woman equal lazy, fat, low value. But if she's with a Black man, that label flips to fat fetish. And if he's white, it's woke love. It's the same body, same beauty, different permission. The core argument, both Black men and white women carry unique kinds of social pressure when they date each other. They're not the same kind of oppression, but both face cultural penalties for crossing racial lines. The root, colonial era conditioning. White womanhood was historically associated with purity, delicacy, and fragility. Black womanhood was associated with fertility, physicality, and sexuality. This led to a subconscious ownership of thick or voluptuous bodies as black trait and slimness as a white ideal. Media evolution. Pre-2000s, white women dominated beauty standards. Post-Instagram era, slim thick became mainstream through black female aesthetic, right? So I already read that. I don't got to go through that again. All right. What happens to white women? I think I already read this, right? Certain far-right white identity corners of the internet still use demeaning terms like coal burner. These insults echo the same thinking that during Jim Crow led to violence against white women who cross racial lines. Gender double standards. White men have always had the freedom to date or sexualize black women without social penalty. White women doing the same were branded as tainted or impure. That stigma has survived online and alt-right and incel spaces, even if it's illegal or socially acceptable in public. Modern social media effect. On platforms like TikTok or X, interracial couples where the woman is white and the man is black still draw disproportionate hate comments. The hostility isn't from mainstream culture as much as it's from echo chambers trying to police racial boundaries. All right. Historical roots. Slave code logic. Enslaved black men who interacted sexually with white women were lynched or killed. Enslaved black women were exploited by white men with no consequences. That double standard built the blueprint today's uneven social reaction. I hope all this Jim Crow slave logic shit, hope this shit died out. This is stupid. Jim Crow continuation. Protecting white womanhood was a pretext for violence against black men. White women who broke that taboo were punished as examples. The fear of that stigma passed down generationally. Black men are culturally boxed in. Every choice becomes a racial statement. White women who cross racial lines get attacked by extremist pockets of their own race. So both experience social punishment for choosing each other, though from opposite sides of the racial hierarchy. That doesn't mean they're the most oppressed overall. Structurally, other groups face deeper systematic barriers, but it's accurate to say they face the most unique relational stigma in American culture. The coal insult and flipped it. When you put coal under pressure, it becomes a diamond. That's poetic and it works metaphorically. Interracial couples who generally love each other are under immense social pressure, but the pressure can refine authenticity of the bond. Is real. So you know that joke, the coal burner that white men on Twitter X or all these other places use when a black man inserts his black sperm or coal into that black woman? Well, stupid as they are, when you put coal under pressure, it becomes a diamond. So when a black man is with a white woman and they produce a mixed breed kid, that's a diamond-like union for me. And it's the answer to racism. Talking about it, and the reason why it's the answer to racism is because historically, like I pointed out, black men, white women submitting to a black man's authority is seen as patriarchal. So black men are allowed to be patriarchal or can be patriarchal like the white man, like the Asian man. That is a true stamping out of racism. Talking about it publicly. If you decide to make content around this, keep it also. All right, already read this. On social media forums, the comment section you sometimes see, white male users react negatively when black men is paired with an Asian or non-black woman. The hostility is often wrapped in other language. It's woke, it's unrealistic, it's historically inaccurate, so that racial discomfort looks like an argument about something else, right? It's what they do. They call it woke. They did it with Assassin's Creed, right? So now you'll think it's to distract you from the core reason, right? Oh, it's historically inaccurate. It's unrealistic. It's woke. But that's bullshit. Because when white men are playing samurai in Japanese stories, that's not considered unrealistic and that's not considered woke. Accept that. Why that response appears. Historical hierarchy. For centuries, Western media and politics put white men at the top of the racial dating ladder. They were represented as having access to all women, while everyone else was shown as competing for leftovers. When black men or other non-white men are seen forming couples across racial lines, it symbolically breaks the old hierarchy. Competition anxiety. Psychologically studying sexual marketplace perception note that people who feel they're in groups, desirability slipping can react defensively. The more diverse beauty ideals become, the more some white men experience loss of status rather than seeing it as equality. I hate to do this to you white dudes. No, I don't. I love every fucking minute of it. Y'all can pathologize black men all day. Y'all can listen to Charlie Kirk, rest in power, for lying on black men. You can listen to Steven Crowder going to black barbershops and lie on black men. We can tell the truth about you white dudes. Online echo chambers. Right-wing and anti-woke spaces on Reddit, X, or gaming boards reward outrage. Complaining about a black male character with an Asian love interest gains more likes than ignoring it. The real issue, racial insecurity, is disguised as protecting history or fighting political correctness. That's what this disguised as, right? So it's not about being politically correct, because white men, you'd be just as upset if you put a white face in an Asian movie killing Asians. You'd be upset with that too. The cultural ownership instinct, because white male, Asian female pairings have been normalized for decades in Western media, some viewers subconsciously treat Asian women as an extension of white male territory. A black man in that space disrupts that unspoken claim. Why it shows up around Assassin's Creed Shadows. And I've already said this at length already, that I disagree with Assassin's Creed taking this route to showcase a black protagonist, because you have the black African diaspora with the maroon bloodlines that I've done tons of videos on about Taki, Bookman, the Haitian Revolution, the Gullah Geechee, the Seminoles, the Haitian Revolution. There's plenty of Black American stories and Caribbean Black diaspora stories that could tell you black male protagonist warfighters that Ubisoft could have did stories on. I don't agree with Yasuke because technically he's a mystery. We don't know. We don't know if he was a slave or Odo Obunaga liked him. And then after Odo Obunaga got slayed, Yasuke disappears into mystery, which nobody in the black diaspora can identify that. We know of Taki. We know of Nani and the Maroons. We know about the Haitian Revolution. We know about the Gullah Geechee. We know about the Seminole Indians. We know about Malcolm X. We know about Marcus Garvey. We know about Martin Luther King. We know about various different black leaders across the African diaspora that fought and died for theirs. So if Ubisoft was going to do an Assassin's Creed about a black male protagonist, there's plenty of stories in the African diaspora. But I believe they didn't do that because which I don't understand why they didn't do that. Because if you're woke and you're trying to showcase the white man as being the big white evil man, the Jamaicans, the Haitians, and the black Americans who were resisting colonial power is a perfect thing to make. Perfect. But hey, the Yasuke controversy is officially about historical accuracy. But subtitles revealed anxiety over the possibility of a romantic subplot between Black Samurai and a Japanese woman. Many of the harshest complaints reuse the word woke, rather than admitting the discomfort was racial sexual competition. White men, I'm exposing you today. Many of your harsh comments or complaints, you gotta use woke to hide the fact that you're racial sexual competition. You want sexual dominance in this over everybody's girl. You don't want that competition. Similar patterns happen with Star Wars. The Last Jedi, Finn and Rose, and The Witcher Blood Origin, where interracial couple triggered its woke arguments that were really about racial pairing. I think Rose was the Asian chick. Hold on, let me look it up. Finn and Rose. Who was Rose? Bro. Let me show y'all this. Share screen. Finn and Rose. Look at this. Everybody didn't like this. What? You think Disney is going to support a homosexual romance while they were seeking dollars, Chinese dollars? What? This was a female Asian and a black guy. Oh, they removed Finn from the movie poster in China. So China, you'll accept a white man fucking your bitch, but you won't accept a black guy doing it. Now I understand why y'all get mad. Wow. I think there was a black chick in the movie that they could have paired Finn up with, but they didn't. Oh, I was looking at the Reddit shit. So this is what was being showed on the Reddit. All right, this is being showed on the Reddit. It's a black guy with Asian. This is what I've been reading the whole time. Okay. Yeah. Boy. But they blocked this. They rewrote this shit. Anyway, we're gonna remove that and go back into this right here. So, what makes this different from Asian male frustration? Asian male frustration is partly about representation and undersexualization in media, and I understand that from the Asian community, right? Asian community in China, they have every right to be upset with certain things, like for example, Finn and Rose. But to China, you still accept white male on Asian women love, whatever. White male frustration is about losing monopoly. It's symbolic loss of dominance, not absence of visibility. That's why white men's backlash tends to sound moral, realism, virtue signaling, while Asian men's backlash sound competitive. We've never portrayed as desirable. How to study a president responsibly? If you turn this into a research, right? So, which already done. No, I'm actually accusing. But no, I'm not accusing all white men of this because most white men in real life, I don't think they care. It's just the white men on media. Maybe, but then again, a lot of these white men who are on these media platforms are from real life. So, when a black man and an Asian woman appear together, some white men experience it as a challenge to an unspoken social order in which white men hold universal access. The reaction is less about the couple itself and more about status anxiety disguised as moral critique. The historical context. For decades, Hollywood and Western media have consistently portrayed Asian men as either asexual or socially awkward sidekicks. I forgot that dude's name. The Asian dude's name. He always plays some stupid character. Martial arts masters with no romantic depth, or villains who are intelligent but emotionally flat. Meanwhile, Asian women were often hypersexualized, exotic size, or paired with white men to symbolize cross-cultural conquest. Cross-cultural conquest. Cross-cultural conquest. The result, a cultural narrative where Asian men were invisible as romantic leads, and Asian women were visible only as prizes. You remember the Shogun, that series that came out over COVID, right? Remember that? The same situation popped up there. And I didn't see any of the Asian community complaining about it. I didn't see white men complaining about that's being woke or that's historically inaccurate. Why Asian men feel targeted? Asian men seeing everyone else, especially white men, being granted symbolic access to Asian women in movies, ads, and pop culture. They've rarely been given equal opportunity to be portrayed as desired, masculine, or capable of leading their own romantic storyline. So when they see another group of, say, black men also pairing with Asian women, it can feel like yet another encroachment into into the one area of representation that has already been taken from them. And I can understand that, right? While this reaction is understandable, their frustration isn't necessarily about hatred or prejudice towards black men. It's more about protective frustration over long-term media iteration. They're saying, we've been made invisible for decades, and now when we finally want visibility with our own women, our groups are being centered again. It's a psychological and cultural wound caused by systemic misrepresentation, not purely interpersonal jealousy. Balanced closing thought. So when an Asian man expresses irritation, I understand it. It's coming from a real place of being marginalized. But when a white man gets mad about a black man dating an Asian woman, that's not about representation. That's about control. One group, Asian, is trying to reclaim visibility. The other is trying to maintain dominance. Dominance, white men, right? Which I understand that from Asian men, right? Why black men have never had a possession or authority over black women, this is important. And I think I touched on it a little bit earlier. Identity stripped and rebuilt. From slavery to modern times, black men's identities have always been defined externally rather than by themselves. Society dictates what a black man is supposed to be. Black women as a group have influenced how black men are perceived, often through cultural criticism or social expectations. Example, if a black man expresses patriarchal values, he's labeled as insecure, emotionally unintelligent, or toxic. If he tries to display emotional intelligence, it's often reinterpreted as insufficient or performative. Metaphor. Like a shattered mirror, black men's identity is repeatedly broken and reconstructed by forces outside their control, whether society at large or the cultural norms set within black communities. Now, why is a black man's identity important? If you study the Masonic rule of three, right, or the Moorish, because you hear that rule of three a lot in a lot of Moorish Science Temple of America and a lot of those places, right? The rule of three: belief, faith, and knowing. When a black man believes something about himself or his external environment, it then evolves into faith. Now he has faith in the thing, right? Because what he believes gets validated through whatever deity he believes in. And it becomes now faith, right? I believe this is going to happen. I have faith in this is going to happen. Then it becomes what he knows to be true. And what men tend to do is they tend to adapt their environment to accommodate what they believe, have faith, and what they know in. That's why if white men are Christians, they tend to design their laws, their constitutions, their institutions based on the Christian Bible, because it's what they believe, have faith, and what they know to be true. So that's why it's important for a black man to have identity, because he's able to dictate to his community what he believes, what he has faith in, and what he knows to be true. And now if you keep shattering that identity, breaking it and then rebuilding it, breaking it again every decade, every century, every era, he's not going to be able to build his own community and his own environment based upon what he believes, what he has faith in, and what he knows. Pathologization of black men. Whatever black men do is pathologicalized. Wearing Jordan sneakers, too flashy, showing off. Buying Gucci, a white man displaying wealth is admired. A black man doing it is criticized, right? We read this again. Me and Angry Man had that discussion already on his channel. Whatever black men do is pathologicalized. Wearing Jordan sneakers, too flashy, showing off. Buying Gucci, a white man displaying wealth is admired. A black man doing it is criticized. Their actions, even if natural or positive, or are reframed as moral, social, or psychological. Tommy Sotomayor talked about it on the show, right? He said that during his holiday, he parked all his cars out in front of his house. You know, the regular surface brain or surfboard thinker, flat surfboard thinker is going to say Tommy Sotomayor, he's showing off, he's being too flashy. But no, Tommy Sotomayor worked for his things and he could afford those cars. Therefore, he should be able to flex his work. White men do it. You feel me? Uh, their actions, even neutral and positive, are reframed as moral, social, psychological problem. This constant scrutiny reinforces the inability of black men to define themselves authentically without judgment, right? Denied control over black women. Black men are socially restricted in defining the qualities or behavior of their partners. When a partner who cooks, cleans, or maintains health and fitness, they get criticized as controlling or insecure. Let me read that properly. When black men want a partner who cooks, cleans, or maintains health and fitness, they get criticized as controlling or insecure. Expected to lead, but blame when leadership isn't effective, even when the partner refuses to follow guidance. The double bind. They are charged with leadership, yet denied the authority to enforce it in their own cultural context. Right? Historical context, slavery and systemic oppression reinforce these dynamics. White men had sexual access to black women with impunity, producing children that black men were often forced to raise. This is what happened during slavery, right? Black male children were frequently removed from their communities or fathers, ensuring no stable patriarchal lineage. This history of disempowerment prevented black men from, exercising authority or possession over their own families and culture. Conclusion. Black men have historically never been allowed to fully possess, lead, or define relationships with black women, whether through social pressure, cultural shaming, or systematic oppression. The result is a cultural dynamic in which black men's authority is consistently undermined, their intentions pathologicalized, and their capacity to establish family leadership disrupted, a pattern that continues to influence dating and cultural perception today. Double standards in sexuality and promiscuity. Historical context for white men. Even before Victorian era, white men openly engage in non-monogamous behaviors. Cultural proverbs reflect this. Better to sin with a whore than to seduce a good woman, signaling a socially accepted balance between family obligation and sexual freedom. That happened a lot during the Victorian era and a lot in the Roman era, right? White men's promiscuity was normalized as part of their biological and social design, often interpreted as a natural male reproductive behavior. Black men's sexuality pathologicalized. When black men exhibit similar sexual behaviors, multiple partners, or casual relationships, society interprets it as negatively. Labels like plantation buck reinforce stereotypes rooted in slavery and systematic oppression. Promiscuity is criminalized culturally for black men, even though it aligns with the same biological imperatives accepted for white men. Racialized double standard. The same behavior, non-monogamy, sexual freedom, is praised or rationalized for white men and condemned for black men. When black men engage sexually with women outside their race, the stigma intensifies, considered both promiscuous and culturally disloyal. Key insight: the double standard is not just moralizing; it's a tool. It's a tool of social control, used to pathologicalize black men while excusing romanticizing identical behaviors in white men. Sexual preferences, pathologicalized, and racial double standards, right? I went into a deep dive in this shit. False moralization of black male sexuality. On social media and media commentary, you'll hear the claim black men being promiscuous will lead them to being gay. There is no biological evidence to support this claim. Human male promiscuity is a natural reproductive strategy, not an indicator of sexual orientation. Yet, for black men, natural sexual behavior is constantly twisted into moral psychological deviance, while the same behaviors in other men, example, white men, are normalized. Preferences stigmatized. Black men's attraction to curvy, thick, or fat ass women is pathologicalized, framed as deviant, abnormal, or misaligned with heterosexual norms. This is ironic because most black men are raised around curvy black women, making this attraction culturally and biological normal. White men's double standard. When white men date black women with similar body types is praised as authentic and love, or pick a real black woman, sometimes called the black wife effect or dating a system. The exact preference when expressed by black men for white women is mocked, shamed, or used to question his sexual orientation. Key insights. Black men's natural sexual drives are aesthetic preferences, and aesthetic preferences are racialized and pathologicalized, while the same drives are celebrated or rationalized for white men. This is part of a broader pattern. Society and media control the narrative around black male sexuality, distorting biology, culture, and personal choice into a tool of shame. Cultural stress and psychological liberation. The weight of cultural expectation. Within black culture, black men are constantly under pressure to conform to socially constructed definitions of masculinity and behavior. Their action style and identity are monitored, pathologicalized, and judged. Flashy coloring, sexual behavior, and emotional expression, all scrutinized. To earn social credit, respect, and validation, black men often have to perform roles that aren't fully their own, like adhering to patriarchal ideals selectively or avoiding behaviors deemed toxic by cultural critiques. What does that mean? It's part of being patriarchal to protect, provide, and produce. But now, the part about patriarchy is to have authority over your household. So now when you try to, as a black man, exert your authority over how you want your black woman to operate, you want them to cook, clean, and do A, B, C, and D, now that's where they call you toxic. Metaphor. It's like having a cage where every move is evaluated and no deviation is tolerated, forcing continuous self-reconstruction. Stepping outside the cultural box. When black men date women outside their own culture, it often provides psychological relief. They're allowed to express themselves authentically without the constant judgment or social policing that exists within black cultural spaces. They don't have to break or rebuild their identity repeatedly to fit someone else's expectations. This is the important part. Black men don't have to break and rebuild their identity repeatedly to fit someone else's expectations. Dating outside their cultural circle can be a form of mental liberation, offering a reprieve from societal and cultural oppression. Psychological impact. The constant cultural surveillance and identity manipulation takes a mental toll. Even if black men don't outwardly admit it, to outside observers and possible psychologists, black men might appear mentally cracked simply because their identities are constantly fragmented and reshaped to meet external standards. This is not weakness, but a survival mechanism in a society that pathologizes the constraints and constrains them. Tell me something of y'all would have told me that English whooped my ass 1,000 times in this one video. Key insights: dating outside one's own culture is sometimes less about rebellion and more about finding psychological freedom, a space where black men can reclaim a version of themselves that isn't constantly being criticized or pathologicalized. The surface level. You think I was done, nigga? Nope. The surface level, indifference and double standards. Most black men on the surface don't care if black women date outside their race. They're not losing sleep over it. They're not in protest and they don't have the collective outrage that the media implies. However, what they do care about is the hypocrisy, the double standards, and how interracial dating is framed. When black women date interracially, it's labeled empowerment, progressive, leveling up, or breaking free from toxic black men. The media influencers and even academia frame it as liberation. When black men date interracially, it's labeled betrayal, anti-black, or self-hatred. He's accused of abandoning his community or not loving his mother's image. The double standard breeds resentment, not because of jealousy, but because of the dishonesty and unequal accountability in the conversation. The subconscious layer, cultural memory or symbolism. Here's where my point hits deep. In psychological and historical layers. In black culture, white men has historically symbolized oppression, control, and conquest. The one who enslaved, colonized, and dehumanized. And in that collective narrative, the black woman was seen as the one that white men violated, while black men failed to protect her due to powerlessness during slavery and Jim Crow. So when in modern times, black men sees a woman willingly with a white man, not under force but by choice, something subconscious stirs, not out of hatred or envy, but out of cognitive dissonance. If a white man was the oppressor, and you've built your identity around resisting him, then how do you end up in submission to him? That's an important part. So when in modern times, a black man sees a black woman wrangling with a white man, not under force but by choice, something subconscious stirs, not out of hatred or envy, but out of cognitive dissonance. If the white man is the oppressor and you've built your identity around resisting him, then how do you end up in submission to him? This isn't about policing who people love. It's about how symbols of power and submission flip in the modern age. The same with women who reject submission to her own man, using terms like "I'm not a slave to no man," becomes cooperative, feminine, and agreeable with a white man, the same figure she called the oppressor. That's what the brothers. That's what the brothers. The back. That's what brothers the back of the mind. That's what bothers the back of the mind of black men, not the relationship itself, but what it represents in the context of cultural memory. The leadership selective resistance. Another part of my argument deals with leadership and obedience. Many black men say black men can't lead, that's why we're frustrated. But the reality, as I'm describing, is that leadership evolves, given structure, setting standards, enforcing discipline. However, expectations to dress, behavior, fitness, tone, and order. When black men do that, it's often called controlling, patriarchal, or misogynistic. Yet when non-black men, particularly white men do it, it's reframed as leadership stability or having standards. That inconsistency is what makes the average black man shake his head in a quiet frustration. Because it's not that she can't follow leadership, she just chooses who she'll submit to. And too often it's the man outside her own culture that she's calling the slave master or the oppressor, or tries to get you black men into fighting a battle with. The emotional layer reversal of roles. The emotional tension here comes from centuries of emasculation. Historically, the white man's dominance over the black man was enforced economically, politically, and physically, and symbolically. So when in modern times a black man sees a black woman voluntarily in a position of submission under a white man, it carries a psychological sting because it visually echoes historical dynamic that black men fought and bled to overturn. Mind you, black men fought and bled for their freedoms and for the freedoms of their black women and children. And look how black women repaid them. You were once forced to submit to him. Now you submit to him by choice, while calling me oppressive for asking you to be cooperative. I'm going to read that shit again. You were once forced to submit to him. Now you submit by choice, while calling me oppressive for asking you to be cooperative. That contradiction is what quietly disturbs black men, even if most won't say it out loud. Surface level. Black men don't care who black women date. They care about the hypocrisy in social perception. Cultural level. The imagery of black women submitting to the same figure she calls the oppressor creates symbolic dissonance. Leadership level. Submission and cooperation are not impossible for her, just selectively given. Emotional level. The historical reversal of power dynamics reopens old wounds of emasculation. Now, what I want to do, this is the next phase of the argument. I can't believe that Dr. Umar Johnson did this because he's manipulating the stats the same
I'm
way
saying that
white
cannot
people
be
manipulate
attributed
the
purely.
same way Charlie Kirk manipulated that stat about the 13% commits 50% of the crimes. Dr. Umar Johnson is manipulating this stat. I don't know why.
To coincidence, but
I don't know why. Because Charlie Kirk may be pandering to an alt-right audience. Dr. Umar Johnson is pandering to a black woman audience. So they're pandering to their audience or to their base. That's why they're doing it.
I'm loyal to the black woman because she suffered the most at the hands of this society.
Really? Dr. Umar Johnson?
And this planet, and because I come from a black woman, I have a special obligation.
Really? So why is that not same thing now for black women? Because without a black man's sperm, there would be no black woman. But she doesn't have that same special obligation to black men.
towards her. And when I look at when our successful Black men tend to marry out or reproduce outside of the community, on some level, it can be insulting to our sisters.
That's a matrilineal mindset. And I think I've broken that down in previous videos, and y'all saw a little bit of it in the presentations I had earlier. I might do that again.
Okay. I consider it insulting to the community as a whole. As someone who works in the school, I've had to entertain conversations with Black girls who are asking Dr. Umar, is there something wrong with me? Because it appears that when you all make it, y'all always abandon the community. And
yes, there's something wrong with that Black woman. I tell you what's wrong, says Dr. Umar Johnson will tell you. You don't listen. You don't follow no instructions. You're not obedient. And I told you in this presentation, I told you. You don't listen. You don't follow no instructions. You're rebellious. You pick the wrong type of Black man, the dog, the gangbanger. You don't find the regular niggas attractive. You say they're lame and they're boring, so you don't pick them. So the niggas you reject, they find women elsewhere that like them and accept them. That's your fucking fault, Black woman. That's not got nothing to do with the average, everyday, responsible Black man. It don't even got shit to do with the Black athlete. It don't. Because every time we've seen a Black woman get a Black athlete, more you fuck that, you drop the ball with that Black athlete or you fuck him over. That's what we've seen you do. So that's your fault. It's not Black men's fault that he can't lead. It's your fault. Because you've been ineffective to keeping a Black man. You have failed your Black men 100%.
Pursuit of your spouse. But Black men marry outside of their race more than every other group of men per capita.
And I'm not making this as an excuse or an example.
No, not at all. Yeah. But I'm saying that cannot be attributed purely to coincidence. But I'm loyal.
Let me show you where he lied at. We're going to use both ChatGPT and we're going to use Grok. Let me fix this properly. All right, we're going to use ChatGPT and then we're going to use Grok too. All right. ChatGPT, can you give me the population of Black America? See what ChatGPT does? ChatGPT does? It pulls up the populations and where the sources it comes from. So you're saying that according to 2023, the Black American population is 48.3 million. That's 14.4%, correct? All right. What about the white population? What's their population size? Okay. What is the Black male population in the Black communities? Males, 14 million. Okay. What is the Black female population? Okay. So, what is the white female population? Okay. So, when we look at dating and mating, according to blackdemographics.com and I guess Pew Research and other dating things, dating official dating, like maybe CDC, blackdemographics.com, Pew Research. At what rate do black men date outside their race? Date outside their race or marry outside their race? Well, first, give me blackdemographics.com, what they say. Well, blackdemographics.com, what they say. Then give me Pew Research, and then give me any other official dating website or statistics or CDC that tracks that stuff. So Pew Research says 18% of newly black weds married someone of a different race and ethnicity. Significant increase. In 2003, 25% of black male newlyweds married someone who was not black, compared to 12% of black female. So, according to Pew Research Center, does it give you the breakdown by race? Pew Research Center doesn't. Okay, so let me ask you a question for the Pew Research Center, right? It says 24% of black men had a spouse of a different race or ethnicity. What was those races or ethnicity? That's what I'm asking you. Were they Latin? Were they white? Were they Asian? What was they? Let me look at the report myself. Oh, it doesn't show it on Pew Research. It does say on Pew Research. So on Pew Research, let me show you here. It doesn't show it. So what Dr. Umar Johnson is looking at this. Unborn black intermarriages is twice as prevalent for male newlyweds as it is for their female counterparts. While about 1/4 of recently married black men, 24% have a spouse of a different race. There are dramatic gender differences among Asian newlyweds, although they run in the opposite direction, right? So let me see this. Does it say down there in contrast? Right, blah, blah, blah. So over here, it just says 24 black people or black men are 24% versus black women who are 12%, right? And then white men marry outside their race more than white women do, but they're at 12%, right? Now, the reason why I looked at the population size on ChatGPT, because population size has something to do with this. I'm going to break down why. And I might have to use Grok. So let's go back to ChatGPT right quick. All right. So Let's use the stats we get from blackdemographics.com, since really and truly Pew Research Center doesn't give you the breakdown by race. It's just saying black men had a spouse of a different race or ethnicity at 24%. Right? It doesn't say white people specifically. It just says 24%. So according to blackdemographics.com, 15%. When you look at the population size of black men, so before we go into that, what's the population size of black men versus white women? Can you put that down? So black men is 24 million, white women all. So let's use New York, for example. So when it comes to New York, for example, what's the population size for the city? And then what's the population size for the New York State as a whole? All right, so now let's look at white women versus black men in the state of New York and then New York City. So that's New York State, 19 million residents. Black population, 3.8 million residents. White population, 10.6 million. White women, approximately 5.3 million residents, assuming a 50% female distribution, right? We look at New York City, black population, white women. Okay, so now let's look at the black male stat. What's black men's population versus the city versus the state? Black male specifically. State. So total African American population, estimated male population, 19 million. New York City, 800,000. Okay, so let's take this versus the population of white women. So 1.9 million black men, white women 5.3 million. In the city, 800,000 black men, white women 1.34 million, right? New York City, there are roughly 1.5 times more white women than black men. See that? So now, black men's dating prospects, because we're a smaller population overall, we're going to date white women more at a higher percentage than white men dating outside their race, because they're going to be dating each other more often, as opposed to us, where we're the smaller group. And even though we're more in proximity to each other, we're like a small fish in a big sea of white people. Now, where black women are getting frustrated at is that white men, they're not having the same dating prospects as black men do, where they're not getting picked by white dudes. So I can understand that frustration, right? But I'm arguing from the position of maybe might be the reason why black men are dating outside their race twice as more. Not to just white women, but I guarantee you that 24% on Pew Research Center showcases to you Latin women and Asian women. And I'm going to plug that into Grok to find out, right? But now, logically, when you look at blackdemographics.com to that 15%, 8% of that is white women, 4% of that is Latin women, and I think 2% is other. Even when you look at Pew Research. Can you logically say objectively that maybe the reason why black men are dating outside their race twice as more than black women is because they're in a big population pool and they're outnumbered by white women? I just use New York State as an example. So let me make this person read it. This just chick read it.
Yes, that is a logical, data-driven conclusion based on the population statistics and interracial marriage dating percentages. Let's break it down carefully using New York State as an example. Step 1. Population context. Black men in NY State, poor 1.9 million. White women in NY State, 5.3 million. This means that black men are outnumbered by white women by roughly 2.8 to 1. Step 2. Interracial dating marriage percentages. From blackdemographics.com, 15% of black men marry or date outside their race. 8% white women, 4% Latin women, 2 to 3% other races. From Pew Research Center, black men are twice as likely as black women to marry outside their race. Step 3. Logical analysis. 1. Population imbalance. Black men are numerically smaller in the overall dating marriage pool compared to white women and other non-black women. 2. Partner availability. Since there are more white women than black men in the state, black men naturally have greater statistical opportunity to form relationships with women outside their race. 3. Comparison with black women. Black women are outnumbered by black men in some age education groups, but are even more outnumbered in the overall dating pool by white men, making interracial relationships less frequent for black women. This explains why black men appear twice as likely as black women to date outside their race. Conclusion. It is objectively logical to say that a significant driver of why black men marry outside their race more than black women is numerical imbalance in the population pool, especially in states or cities where white women heavily outnumber black men. Cultural, geographic, and socioeconomic factors can also influence this, but the population pool ratio is a major statistical driver. If you want, I can make a simple visual diagram for New York State showing black men versus white women versus interracial marriage rates. It really makes this point crystal clear. Do you want me to do that?
So let's address why black women are outnumbered by black men and objectively thinking, shouldn't black women have access to white men too, since white women outnumber them as well? Why do you think they're not having access to white men like black men might have access to white women?
Yes. This is a very interesting question, and it can be approached objectively using population dynamics, social behavior, and cultural patterns. Let's break it down carefully. 1. Population imbalance among black men and women. In the US, and specifically in places like New York State or City, black men, 24 million nationally, 50% of black population. Black women, 24 to 24.5 million nationally. Slightly more black women than black men, particularly in the adult population, partly due to higher male mortality rates. So, in a purely numerical sense, black women are not lacking potential black partners, but in some local dating markets or age groups, younger black women may outnumber black men in the available dating pool. Number 2, white men versus white women population dynamics. White men to 121 million, 50% of total white population. White women to 121 million. Numerically, white men and women are roughly equal, but relative to black women, white men vastly outnumber black men in absolute terms. So, black women technically have access to white men, just like black men have access to white women. 3. Why black women might date outside the race less than black men. Here's where social and cultural factors come in. 1. Dating preferences and cultural biases. Studies and surveys, including Pew Research, show that white men are more likely to date black women than black women are to date outside the race. But there are social perceptions and biases that influence actual dating patterns. White men, on average, show a lower percentage of romantic preference for black women compared to black men, showing preference for white women. Black men are often more open to dating white women, which explains the higher interracial dating rate. 2. Socioeconomic and geographic factors. Black women are disproportionately concentrated in urban areas, while white men are spread more evenly across suburban and rural areas. Access and social networks matter. Black women may not be in the same social circles where white men are present, reducing the practical dating pool. 3. Historical and cultural context. There is a strong historical and societal bias against black women in mainstream American media and social hierarchies, which affects perceived desirability in interracial dating for some white men. Black men, on the other hand, are often seen as socially acceptable partners for white women in contemporary dating culture, partly due to the dating industry and media dynamics.
I gotta stop you right there. Because when you look at social media, that's not the case. Black men are shamed or like called all kind of racial terms for dating white women, or if they say a couple. I think I saw a couple on YouTube that made a YouTube short. It was a white woman with a black man, and they reported that in their comment sections, they were being told racial slurs the black man by the white men, and then racial slurs thrown at her by the white men and the black woman that was in the comment section. So I don't agree with that. Black men are socially accepted to date white white women. Now, based upon what we see on TikTok, Twitter, X, Facebook, especially outside of the internet, black men have always been historically shamed out of dating white women. So it's not acceptable. This nigga didn't even read my chat. Fucking Chat GBT. Where I disagree with you, Chat GBT, is because when you look at, say, Twitter X, social media platforms, black men are actually shamed, called all kind of moon crickets, basically racial slurs. As a matter of fact, there was a interracial couple with a white woman and a black man, and they reported how in their comment section they had a lot of racist comments from both black women and white men in their comment section. We go here. All right, so I want to go into something. I want to look at the percentages of white men that date outside their race. Does Pew Research say what race of women that they date outside their race? And if Pew Research doesn't say it, what other dating website or official dating website can break down what race within that 12% do white men date? Oh. Huh. White men, 12% of newly white men marry someone of a different race or ethnicity. White women, 10% of newlywed Hispanic individuals. Well, does blackdemographics.com show that? We're going to go into Grok after this. But does blackdemographics.com show interracial marriages for white men? And does it break down what by race do they date? Interracially. Oh, so this is it. So 2008 Pew Research Center report, among newlywed white men who married outside their race, 26.9% married Asian women, 6.9% married black women, 46.1% married Hispanic women, 20.1% married someone of another race. Now, mind you, this is from 2008, so I don't know if anybody want to still credit this, right? When you look at blackdemographics.com up here, black men in 2021 married white women at 8% and Hispanic women at 4%. Over here, even though white men are 12%, they're marrying outside their race 12%. But look at the volume. 26% married Asian, 6.9% married black women. So there's obviously something going on here. Maybe it's the population size, right? Maybe it's because white men are a bigger population that when they date outside their race, it appears to be 12%. Now, if you notice, ChatGPT, within the 12% of newlywed white men, they're married to Hispanic women at 46.1%, then to Asian women at 26%, and then somebody else at 20%. Versus black men, when they marry outside their race, according to blackdemographics.com, they marry white women at 8% and Hispanic women at 4%. What is the volume difference between those two? Hispanic women, right? So this even does the math. So this is the volume difference. White men marrying Hispanic women, that's 6 million. White men marrying Asian women, that's 3 million. White men marrying other races, that's 2 million. Black men marrying white women, that's 1 million. Black men marrying Hispanic women, that's 906,000. Black men marrying other races, that's 7,000. So interracial marriage is 50% of the 24 million equals 3 million, right? Versus white men, see, look at this, 6 million, 3 million, 2 million. 12% of 121 million equals 14 million versus the 3 million. So again, it's that per capita shit again, right? Volume difference is huge due to population size. White men marrying outside their race happens at a much larger absolute scale. White men overwhelmingly marry Hispanic women and Asian women. Black men mostly marry white women 8% and then Hispanic women 4%. But the total volume is much smaller because black male population is much smaller. Even though the percentage of black men marrying outside their race is slightly higher, 15 versus 12%, the absolute numbers of marriages is far fewer. Now, I would love to do it for Pew Research Center, but when it comes to that, it doesn't do a breakdown for black men. It just says at 24%. So because of that, we don't know if that's white women mainly, Asian women mainly, or Latin women mainly. But it does do it for white men. So let's go to Grok. Let's go to Grok. Let's go to Grok. Okay, Grok, I need some help. I need information from both blackdemographics.com and Pew Research. What I need is to find the dating patterns of black men and the interracial dating patterns. Can you present that information for me? And we're doing a YouTube video, so just want to let you know.
Hey, gotcha on the YouTube vid. I'll keep it snappy and stat heavy for you. So I dug into Pew Research. They've got solid data on this from marriage trends, which ties right into dating patterns. Black men are way more likely to go interracial than black women. Back in 2015, about 24% of newlywed black men married outside their race, compared to just 12% of black women. That gap's been steady. In 2010, it was 24% for men versus 9% for women, and it held around 25% versus 12% by 2017. Overall, intermarriage is up across the board since the Loving v. Virginia ruling in '67, but black guys lead the pack among black folks. On blackdemographics.com, I couldn't pull fresh specifics. Their site's got a piece on black millennials in marriage, but it's light on dating deets or interracial breakdowns. Might be worth checking their full reports there for millennial trends. That cover what you need, or want me to zoom in on something? Sounds like a cool vid topic.
On blackdemographics.com, they have a thing where it showcases 15% of black men who date outside their race, and it shows actual visual chart. It shows where 8% of black men date white women, 4% date Latin women, and then like other is like, I guess, Asian women. Do you find that?
Yeah, I hunted around blackdemographics.com pretty good, but couldn't spot that exact chart or those 15% interracial stats for black men. No breakdowns like the 8% white, 4% Latin, or the rest. Their site's got a piece on black millennials in marriage, but it's all about overall trends, not interracial deets. Maybe it's tucked in a report or infographic I missed. Want to try digging into a specific page URL if you've got it? Pew's got similar vibes though, with black men hitting about 18% intermarriage overall, mostly with white or Hispanic women. What's the vid angle on this?
You're making me look bad in front of YouTube right now. Hold on. Hey, I just found the thing. I don't know how you didn't found it. So I'm showcasing to my YouTube that AI needs some work. So I'm gonna post the exact URL into the chat to prove that you're missing some things. Look.
Graphics.com's Marriage in Black America spot. Yeah, it's there loud and clear for 2021 data. Only 15% of married black men are hitched to non-black women. Steady from 2017, up from 11% in 2010 and 8% back in 2000. Breakdown spot on. 8% with white women, 4% with Hispanic, and the leftover 3% rolls into other groups like Asian or whatever else. They've got a killer chart for it too. Click to enlarge visual, showing exactly that pie for black men and women in 2021. Ties into the bigger pic where overall black marriage rates are tanking. Only 31% of black folks married versus 48% nationwide. And half of black adults have never tied the knot. For your vid, that 15% stat with the visuals gold pairs perfect with Pew's 25% for black male newlyweds going interracial. Nailed it now? What's next on this?
So let me ask a question, all right? Does Pew Research have a similar breakdown?
Yeah, Pew's got some solid breakdowns on this from their 2017 intermarriage report based on 2015 newlywed data. 24% of black men married outside their race, up from 5% back in 1980. They don't slice it quite as neatly as that black demographics pie, but from the charts and tables, it's mostly white women, around 11-12% of all black male newlyweds, and Hispanic women, about 5-6%, with the rest sprinkled into Asian or other groups. Overall, for all married black men, not just new ones, it's closer to 8% with white spouses and 4% Hispanic, echoing what you found. Ties right into the...
according to Pew Research, it's only 11%, 11 to 12% of black men marrying to white women.
Yeah, that's right. Pew pins it around.
When you have people like Dr. Umar Johnson saying that black men are marrying outside their race to white women twice as much as black women, that's a lie. Because when you look at black women's dating patterns on that same site, they're dating outside their race at 12%. So it's around the same. So it's not. So that's a lie to say that black men are dating outside their race or dating white women twice as more as black men when they're dating white women at 11 to 12%, similar to black women dating outside their race at 12%, correct?
Not quite. It's not apples to apples. Dr. Umar's claim lines up more with Pew's newer marriage stats, where black men do marry outside, like white women, at about twice the rate of black women. See, for newlyweds in 2015, Pew says 24% of black guys went interracial, mostly white or Hispanic, while black women hit just 12%. But when you zoom out to all married black folks, like what Black Demographics tracks, it's steadier. Men at 15%, women at 12%. So he's exaggerating if he's cherry-picking totals. But honestly, the twice as much vibe holds for fresh unions, not lifetime ones. And yeah, white women aren't flooding in at some crazy clip. It's balanced-ish there. Kinda depends which snapshot you're filming. Fair call out, though. You're building heat for that.
You said something. Two things, right? So when you look at so Pew Research, that 24%, right? It doesn't break down the race between black men, the race say out of 24%, does it say black men are dating white women at 12% or Asian women at 2% or Latin women at 8%? And second thing, what's the difference between Pew Research's stats and blackdemographics.com stats? And I want you to write down your response to me.
Hey, all right, 2 quick bits. First off,
Write it
Pew's
down.
27... Pew Research doesn't give an exact pie slice like that. But yeah, from their tables of that 24% interracial marriages for black men, white women make up about 11-12%, Hispanic around 8-9%, Asian closer to 2%, and the tiny rest other races. Close enough to match what you're thinking. Now the second part, Pew only looks at newlyweds, like folks who just got hitched. Those numbers climb because people date outside more now. Black Demographics looks at everyone, married right now, including old school couples who rarely crossed lines back then. That's why their 15% for black men stays lower. Older marriages drag the average down. One's a snapshot, the other's the full reel. Makes sense for your vid though. Shows context matters.
So the Pew Research is a snapshot, meaning at that moment in time, or just as they're married, versus the 15% is an overall picture of the piece, of the whole, not the piece, my bad.
Exactly. Pew's just the slice that year, the newly hitched folks, which bumps up interracial rates.
Write that down. Remember, we're doing a YouTube video.
Pew is a slice, just that one year. Got it. Here's the script line. Pew is a slice, just that 1 year, 2015, only people who got married then, while Black Demographics gives the full pie, all marriages ever, so the interracial numbers drop to 15%.
You don't think that's a manipulation tactic that when people use the Pew Research from 2015, because that's just saying who got married that year, that specific year. So you can't see that that's a manipulation tactic for someone like Dr. Umar Johnson when he wants to pander to say, yo, because he didn't say overall. He framed it as overall. He didn't bring up the fact that that was just a snapshot for that year.
Could be. Feels like selective stats to fire up the crowd, you know?
Write it
If
down.
he's framing it, it could come off that way. If Dr. Umar's pitching it like black men marry out twice as much without saying newlyweds only, Yeah, that's selective. Feels like pandering when the full picture's way tamer.
See, you gotta fight with AI, and this is why I asked AI to write the shit down so I can see in real time what she's saying, so I can see the holes in the chain. But it did admit that that 24 that Pew Research thing, it was a snapshot. What snapshot means is that it's the statistics for that year in that specific time, not overall. That's why Black demographics is 15%, but Pew Research is 24% because Black demographics is overall. So let me have. All right, can you read aloud the last text? Can you read that aloud?
It could come off that way if Dr. Umar's pitching it like black men marry out twice as much without saying newlyweds only. Yeah, that's selective. Feels like pandering when the full picture's way tamer.
Okay, so let's look at white men's dating patterns, right? Because it said that white men date 12% out of the race, right? But I believe that's based upon population size. And what people are doing is um they're doing a per capita measurement instead of a absolute measurement for total population. Or I mean a raw calculation. So instead of them doing a raw calculation to find the volume, they're doing a per capita calculation to find the rate. And I think when your per capita is adjusted to population size. So when you do that, it would appear that black men are dating outside their race at a higher rate. But when you look at the white men who are dating outside their race at 12%, and then you look at like Latin, I think is like 46%, Asian is like 20%. So volume is a lot bigger, but that's because white men are a larger group versus black men, we're a smaller group. So our volume is smaller, but the rate is higher. So I want to look into what white men's dating patterns are, interracial dating patterns are.
Spot on. You're nailing the nuance. Rates versus raw volume's the key to not getting twisted up. From Pew's 2015 newlyweds data, yeah, white guys clock in at just 12% interracial overall, mostly with Hispanic women. That's the big chunk, like 8-9% of all white male newlyweds. Then Asian, around 2-3%, Black, under 1%, and scraps elsewhere. So per capita, it's low because whites are the huge majority, about 60% of the US pop back then. So even 12% spits out millions of interracial pairs, dwarfing the absolute numbers from smaller groups. Flip to Hispanics, 27% intermarriage for men, 26% specifically, often with whites. Raw volume solid, since they're 18% of folks. Asians, 21% for men, again, mostly whites, but with a tiny pop base, 6%. So totals stay way lower than whites'. Black men at 24%, higher rate for sure, but yeah, smaller group means less share volume, like whites 12% crushes it in total couples. That's the manipulation hook. Folks hype rates to stir, but skip how population scales the real flow. Gold for your vid shows it's not epidemic, just math.
I want to see the volume of the 12% for white men.
All right, so 12% of white men getting married in 2015. That's about 2.4 million marriages total for white men that year, give or take. So 12% means roughly 288,000 white men married someone non-white. Majority, say 80%, of that chunk went Hispanic. So you're looking at like 230,000 white Hispanic couples. Asians, 2 to 3%, so 10 to 15,000. And Black women, Pew puts it at 0.8%, just under 3,000. So yeah, the volume dwarfs everything else, but that's because there's 80 million white guys out there marrying. It's like saying black men marry out more, true per person, but white men, they're doing it in truckloads. Wild, right?
Yeah, it is wild. Thank you a lot, Grok.
Anytime, man. Good luck with the vid.
So Grok is saying that when you do the numbers on ChatGPT, it's saying this, right? But when you look at this, total interracial marriages for white men, right? It's 120 million. Divide that by 12%, you get 14 million interracial marriages. So 6.7 million Hispanic, 3.9 million Asians, 2.9 million other. Black men marrying white women, right? 100,000. I mean 1,900,000. Black men marrying Hispanic women, 24 million times 0.4%. That equals 900,000. That's even less for Asian. Total interracial marriages for black men equal 15% of 24 million, equals 3 million. White 1.93 million, Hispanic 0.97 million, other 0.72 million. What are we talking about, Dr. Umar? This 1 million is what you're afraid of? 1 million missing black men marrying to white women. And we already broke down the difference between Pew Research and blackdemographics.com. Pew Research is a snapshot of that year. So let me ask this. So ChatGPT, these stats that are coming from Pew Research, are the stats that are coming from pewresearch.com, are those snapshot statistics of that year? And why do they differ from Black demographic statistics? So the reason why blackdemographics.com is 15% is because it's taken into effect census, other demographic studies, and all black women over time, not just newlyweds. All right, so I'm gonna give me 1 second. I'm gonna use the bathroom and I'll be right back. So I'm gonna have ChatGPT read this aloud.
Yes, the statistics from Pew Research Center are generally snapshot statistics, representing a specific year or survey period. Key points about Pew Research statistics. 1. Time frame. Pew often reports data for a particular year, e.g. 2015 or 2017, typically using recently married couples or newlyweds as the sample. Example, 12% of newlywed white men married outside their race refers specifically to newlyweds in the survey year, not all white men historically. 2. Cross-sectional data. Pew data is mostly cross-sectional, meaning it shows a snapshot in time, not a longitudinal trend unless they explicitly compare across years. 3. Survey methodology. Pew uses nationally representative surveys, U.S. Census data, or current population survey, CPS data. The results reflect recent behavior at the time of the survey, not lifetime probabilities. 4. Implication. When interpreting percentages like 12% or 24%, it's important to remember this is a snapshot of behavior for that year or period, not necessarily a long-term trend for all adults. So yes, Pew Research statistics are year-specific snapshots, though they sometimes include historical comparisons to show trends over decades. If you want, I can explain how to combine Pew snapshot stats with population sizes to estimate total numbers of interracial marriages per year. This often clarifies the real-world scale. Do you want me to? The differences between Pew Research Center statistics and blackdemographics.com statistics come from a few key factors, mainly methodology, definitions, and scope. Let's break this down carefully. 1. Sample and scope differences. Pew Research Center typically focuses on recently married couples or newlyweds. Their percentages, e.g., 12% of white men or 24% of black men marrying outside their race, are based on a snapshot of recent marriages, not all adults or lifetime behavior. The data is cross-sectional, often national in scope, sometimes using census or current population survey, CPS data. Blackdemographics.com aggregates data from multiple sources, including the census, ACS, and other demographic studies, but often focuses on all married black men and women, not just newlyweds. Provides race-specific breakdowns for black men marrying outside their race, e.g., 8% white women, 4% Hispanic women, 2 to 3% other. Includes historical and trend-based analysis, not just a snapshot. Result: blackdemographics.com percentages may appear lower or higher than Pew's because they are measuring a different population, all married versus newlyweds, and may include different age ranges. 2. Definitions of interracial. Pew uses a broad definition of spouse of a different race or ethnicity, but may combine all non-white races into one category in some tables, which can obscure exact breakdowns. Blackdemographics.com breaks it down specifically into white, Hispanic, Asian, and other, providing more granular detail. Result: Pew might...
All right, we don't need to hear all that. Y'all get the point. Right? You get the point. So I'm going to ask ChatGPT when it reloads or refreshes. What the fuck going on? Reload. Bro. My fault. ChatGPT. And you know what's so funny? I've done this before already. I've done this in previous videos before, breaking down Dr. Umar Johnson and all that other shit. The fact that we got to keep doing this. Share screen. Don't you think it can be manipulative if, when you're using Pew Research as a definitive stat, to say that black men are marrying outside their race more, to make an argument that, black men are marrying white women outside their race more, especially after we just figured out the actual raw numbers? Don't you think it could be misleading and manipulative of somebody to say, oh, black men are marrying more outside their race, without giving the full context of Pew Research and saying that, that's a snapshot of that year? See this part here? The lack of race in Pew, breakdown in Pew. Pew doesn't break down non-black spouse category by race in some reports. Saying black men marrying white women outside their race directly from Pew data is technically unsupported, because Pew Research just says non-black. Blackdemographic.com does provide breakdown 8% white women, 4% Hispanic women, etc. Without this context, someone could manipulate the narrative to imply black men are marrying white women at a higher rate than they actually are. So misrepresenting Pew Snap research as a definitive long-term trend can feed stereotypes or narratives about black men and interracial marriages. It's important to always include time frame, snapshot versus historical, population base, all married men versus newlyweds, raw numbers and percentages, race breakdown. Yes, citing Pew's research without context can be misleading or manipulative. The responsible approach is to pair Pew Research snapshot data with blackdemographics.com lifetime data and show both percentages and raw numbers so the audience gets a full, accurate picture. Oh my God, it's not even showing the bomba cloud thing. This is what I was showing. Right, so this is what I was showing right here. So y'all can pause the video and read it here, what I'm showing. Right? And then again, when I break down the raw numbers, look at this. Population base. White men, 121 million. Black men, 24.15 million. Interracial marriage rates, 12% married outside their race. But even though 12% are marrying outside their race, the volume of white men doing it is a lot bigger. Black men, even though it's 50% according to blackdemographics.com, look at our value, right? So it's the per capita shit again. Then it breaks it down. It breaks it all down. Anyway, my final thing I want to put a send off to this. Now remember, like, share, and subscribe to the channel for more stuff. Try to watch the full video to get the full picture of my madness so that you can understand. I want to give a slight send off before I go. Give me a moment. So, to all you white men that are upset with black guys for, dating white women, I have a song to tell you, or a speech to tell you. You know how in Monster Ball the old man said, "You ain't a real white man till you spit dark oak"? Well, you don't truly become a black man till you've baked a vanilla cream pie. See, splitting dark oak, as I say, that's a very violent thing to do. That's axes, sweat, sawdust flying like a bad day in Home Depot. But baking a vanilla cream pie, that's patience, that's rhythm, that's chemistry. You need ingredients like milk, sugar, eggs, and a little bit of R&B music or jazz. Like how your mother used to bake a pie bake a cake or bake a pie. She's always humming and hemming, and she's listening to a certain jazz tune or a certain R&B song, like Luther Vandross, somebody like that. You see, now when you're baking a cake or you're making a pie, you gotta stir it up with care, right? You let it cool, let it bake, then you give it time. When it's ready, it don't just feed your stomach. When you eat it, it feeds your spirit. Like the time in Men in Black, when Agent J and Agent K sat down at the diner to eat that cake, what did it do? It gave them clarity. See, that's the difference between conquest and connection. When a black man and a white woman vibe right, it's not forced, it's not awkward. It's like two radio stations hitting the same frequency. Static spark their music. Chocolate dip walks up smooth to Jessica Bunny Rabbit. "How you doing, baby girl?" And she say, "Well, hey there, Mr. Chocolate Dip." Now the air changed. You can feel the chemistry, not the tension. That's the energy of two worlds trying to harmonize, not collide. Because chocolate and vanilla ain't opposites. They're teammates. Chocolate bring that deep bass note, vanilla hum that soft melody. Mix them right. You don't get confusion. You get a symphony. When that balance hits, the ancestors pause like, man, damn. You know what? We should allow this union. It's a flavor, right? Every time chocolate dip and Jessica Bunny Rabbit link up, somewhere a racist loses Wi-Fi. Anyway, the world's at peace in a dessert form. So yeah, you can split dark oak all day. But until you've learned how to bake that vanilla cream pie, you just swinging an axe. The black man, he's just swinging a spatula. And but his spatula, he's mixing all them flavors right. He's mixing all them vanilla cream right, all them Becky juices right. That Becky Bunny Rabbit, she's just hoppity, skippity, poppity all over his dickety, dockety, boppity. And when that beautiful coal that he planted in her stomach burns, it becomes a diamond-like child. Anyway, my name is Kish Yardy Gamer Nation. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe to the video. I'm out.